Port Talbot, a small town on the coast of Wales, known for its steelworks, its rugged beauty, and a darkness that had settled over it. The air, thick with the scent of salt and steel, carried a chill that seeped into your bones. This was a place where secrets lingered like the smoke from the factory chimneys. The streets, often cloaked in a thick fog rolling in from the sea, whispered tales of the past. Tales of ordinary lives lived and lost against a backdrop of industrial grit and the ever-present shadow of the steelworks. But these streets held more than just memories. They held secrets buried deep, waiting for the day they would be unearthed. News traveled slowly in those days, carried on the tongues of neighbors huddled on doorsteps, their voices hushed, their faces etched with worry. The murders were the only topic of conversation. Theories, rumors, and speculation swirled around Port Talbot like the wind whipping off the Bristol Channel. Everyone had their suspicions, their eyes darting to strangers, their doors bolted a little tighter at night. The once familiar faces of their neighbors now seemed cloaked in uncertainty. The rhythm of life, once as predictable as the changing tides, was disrupted, replaced by an undercurrent of fear and suspicion. The police, their faces grim, their steps heavy, became a constant presence. They knocked on doors, questioned residents, and scoured the town for clues. But the killer, like a phantom, seemed to vanish into thin air, leaving behind only the chilling echo of their crimes. It began on a blustery November evening. Rain lashed against the windows, the wind howling like a banshee. The victim, a young woman named Megan Davies, was last seen walking home from her shift at the local library. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through the community. Megan was a familiar face, her cheerful disposition and love for books making her a beloved figure in Port Talbot. Search parties were organized, combing through the town and the surrounding countryside. Hope, though fading with each passing hour, flickered like a candle in the wind. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Megan's body was discovered days later, hidden in the shadow of the steelworks. The news, delivered with a heavy heart by the local constable, shattered the fragile hope that had clung to the town. The brutal reality of the crime, the senselessness of it all, sent a collective shiver down the spines of Port Talbot's residents. The killer, it seemed, walked among them. Fear, palpable and suffocating, descended upon Port Talbot. Gone were the carefree strolls along the beachfront, the laughter of children playing in the park, the warmth of shared smiles on cobblestone streets. Doors that were once left unlocked were now bolted shut, reinforced with extra locks and chains. Parents clutched their children a little tighter, their eyes scanning the streets, their minds replaying the horrors that had befallen their town. The darkness that had always lingered on the edges of their lives had seeped into their hearts, casting long, chilling shadows. The steelworks, once a symbol of the town's strength and resilience, now loomed over Port Talbot like a menacing giant, a stark reminder of the vulnerability of life. The rhythmic clang of machinery, once a familiar soundtrack to their lives, now echoed the beat of their anxious hearts. Weeks turned into months, and the investigation dragged on, each passing day chipping away at the hope that had once burned bright. The police, despite their tireless efforts, seemed no closer to finding the killer. The leads ran cold, the witnesses offered little in the way of concrete information. Frustration gnawed at the edges of their investigation, fueled by the weight of a community desperate for answers. The case files, filled with dead ends and unanswered questions, grew thicker, a testament to the elusiveness of the truth. The killer, it seemed, had vanished into thin air, leaving behind a trail of shattered lives and a town grappling with the aftermath. The residents of Port Talbot, once united in their grief and fear, now found themselves grappling with a different kind of monster uncertainty. The unanswered questions lingered in the air, heavy and oppressive, a constant reminder of the darkness that had descended upon their town. Years passed, and the case grew colder, the files gathering dust in the archives of the Port Talbot police station. The murders, though never forgotten, faded into the background of their lives, like a scar that, while always present, no longer throbbed with the same intensity. Just when hope seemed lost, a glimmer of light pierced the darkness. Advances in forensic technology, particularly in DNA analysis, offered a renewed chance at cracking the case. The evidence, meticulously preserved, was re-examined with a fresh perspective, scrutinized under the lens of cutting-edge science. The news, met with a mixture of cautious optimism and a resurfacing of old wounds, spread through Port Talbot like wildfire. Could this be the breakthrough they had been waiting for? Could justice, after all these years, finally be served? The results, when they finally came back, sent shockwaves through the investigation. A DNA profile extracted from a minuscule piece of evidence collected at one of the crime scenes provided a long-awaited link. The profile was compared against national databases, the search parameters widened, the hope for a match growing with each passing day. The match, when it came, was not from a criminal database, but from a genealogy website. A partial match, a distant relative, but enough to provide a lead, a name, a face. The pieces of the puzzle, scattered for so long, were finally beginning to fall into place. The investigation, once stagnant, now surged forward with renewed vigor. The name led them to a man, living a seemingly ordinary life, his dark secret buried deep beneath the surface. The shadow of suspicion fell upon him, the long arm of the law closing in, ready to finally unveil the truth. The arrest, when it finally came, was swift and decisive. The man, apprehended at his home without incident, maintained his innocence, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. The DNA, the forensic analysis, the circumstantial evidence, all pointed to him as the perpetrator of the crimes that had haunted Port Talbot for so long. The trial was a media spectacle, the eyes of the nation fixed on the small Welsh town. The prosecution presented its case, meticulously laying out the evidence, their words echoing in the hushed courtroom. The defense, fighting an uphill battle, sought to cast doubt, to poke holes in the prosecution's narrative. The jury deliberated for days, their faces etched with the weight of their responsibility. The tension in the courtroom was palpable, the air thick with anticipation. And then the verdict, guilty. A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom, a mix of relief, vindication, and a profound sense of sadness. The conviction brought with it a sense of closure, a measure of justice served, but the scars of the past, deep and enduring, remained. The families of the victims, forever marked by their loss, found a semblance of peace, but the pain, the emptiness, lingered. Port Talbot, too, bore the scars of the murders. The fear that had once gripped the town had subsided, replaced by a quiet resilience, a determination to move forward. But the memory of the crimes, the knowledge that such darkness could touch their lives, lingered in the shadows, a constant reminder of their vulnerability. The steelwork still stood, a symbol of the town's industrial heritage, but its shadow no longer held the same menacing power. The rhythmic clang of machinery, once a source of anxiety, now served as a reminder of the town's enduring spirit, its ability to weather even the darkest of storms. The case, though officially closed, left behind a trail of unanswered questions. The motive, the why, remained a mystery, locked away in the mind of the convicted killer. The years of silence, the seemingly normal life he had constructed, only deepened the enigma. The residents of Port Talbot, forever bound by the shared experience of the murders, continued to grapple with the questions that lingered. How could someone they knew, someone they had shared their lives with, be capable of such darkness? What drove him to commit such heinous acts? The answers, elusive and perhaps forever out of reach, served as a reminder that some wounds, no matter how deeply buried, never truly heal. They remained a testament to the fragility of life, the enduring power of memory. and the perpetual search for understanding in the face of the unknown.